Greetings, welcome back to the Car Doctor channel. I'm Tim. We're here at the repair shop, Donor Auto, in Anchorage, Alaska, and we got this 08 Pacifica. We're doing rear coil springs and shocks, kind of like a strut shock deal, although it doesn't have a coil spring on the actual shock absorber. So I guess maybe it's just a shock, but it's a very specialized shock, super spendy. These are, I don't know, what were they? They were like $200-300 a pop for this OE equivalent shock. And then this is actually, yeah, I think this is a Monroe part. There's the part number. And I'm using these Napa suspension coil springs. It's a set of two. These vehicles have a serious problem with shocks. Of course, you know, super expensive shocks should always fail at 50,000 miles. I don't see why not. So, you know, it's bouncing, but the suspension's real low, it's sagging. I don't know if they've used this as a delivery van or something at some point, but, you know, it's sagging, it's hopping, and it's rocking and rolling. So anyway, I'm gonna do rear springs and shocks, and basically you do this one on each side. As long as you just do one side at a time and only loosen the rear frame member, the little K-frame that bolts up to the body. Do one side at a time. You won't have to do the rear end alignment afterwards. So that's what we're doing. So basically supporting the vehicle, and in this case you could use jack stands on either side of the pinch weld. And it'd be good to put a little jack stand under the front somewhere to support the front of the vehicle as you're lifting the rear suspension. But I'm doing this on a 4-post rack with these rolling jacks, and I've got a rolling jack towards the front on the rear of the frame rails, lifting it there, and then I've got my other jack here. I'll lower this down so you can see. I've got my other jack over here lifting on the rear differential. You want to be careful doing that. Don't punch a hole in your rear diff case, but that holds that up. So basically, first order of business is remove the upper shock mounting bolts on this left side, and then we're going to raise the vehicle up so I can access it, and we'll remove the two K-frame mounting bolts on this side, and then we'll lower this jack and allow that cradle to come down. That'll allow us to remove the shock and the coil spring over here. One thing to note is the coil springs do have a top and bottom. The factory springs are marked with like this side up or top or something like that. These are not, but you can tell the difference. This is actually the bottom with that type of spacing on the coil, and this is the upper end where the little spring seat transfers to here. But just keep an eye on the ones you pull out. You can mark them with some chalk so that you can compare the two and get that right. So I'm just going to remove the two upper shock mounts first here. Always use safe lifting practices. You don't want this car on your face, so be careful. The Car Doctor channel cannot be responsible should you improperly lift a vehicle or do substandard repairs. And this video is just for informational and entertainment purposes. Consult your manufacturer repair manual for correct procedures and torque specs, which can differ across your models and body styles. So I'm going to raise it up a little bit here, and we'll lower that frame. Okay, so we'll remove the left side front and rear frame mounting bolts, little cradle here. Got one just ahead here. Loosen. These are 21mm bolt heads, in case you're wondering. And the rear one. Remember, these coil springs are loaded, so there's still a lot of load there. So when you're doing this work, you got to do it right, or that coil spring could fly out of there and take your head off. That would suck. All right, so now I'm going to actually lower this jack down that's supporting the rear carrier, and enough to allow this coil spring to come loose and allow us to remove that and the shock. Okay, now it's free in there, and I can first remove this shock, the lower shock bolt, 18 millimeters. And get the shock out of there. Just tip the spring out, and there's your coil spring. So again, you'll need to remove this, transfer it to the new spring. And again, the bottom of the spring has these looser coils, and the top looks a little different. So here's the top of the new one. And transfer the mount exactly the way it was. And line up the new spring, stick it in there. Okay, now we've got a replacement shock. We'll stick it in there and tilt it up, and just loosely install the lower mounting bolt for now. Now I've just raised my jack back up while I keep the spring and the shock lined up to press it back up in there. Now I've got it up enough to where I can get my upper shock mounting bolts installed, and I'll just loosely get these in so it guides the shock the rest of the way into position. Okay, so now I can raise it the rest of the way to where I can get my cross member bolts in and start it. Got to go a little bit more. Now you want to properly torque those cross member bolts, the front and rear there, and then we can properly torque the upper shock mounting bolts, and then we'll get our tires on and lower this thing back down. But at this point I can lower the jack that's supporting the under the rear diff and get that out of the way. Now we torque our upper shock mounting bolts, in this case, to 45 foot-pounds. Now we install our tires and properly torque those and lower this thing down on the rack before we finally torque the lower shock mounting bolt. Okay, once I attach my wheels, I lowered the vehicle down, got the suspension at the right level, then I torqued the lower shock bolts to 75 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to torque the wheels to 100 foot-pounds in this case, and we'll have this thing back on the road. All right, well that wraps this one up. I do appreciate you stopping by. Thanks for watching the Car Doctor videos. They're super cool, and we love you guys. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.